Morning, everybody. Man, there's a bunch of you. Anybody like fishing? Whoop, whoop. Anybody ever been shark fishing? Whoop, whoop. I went shark fishing one time, I'll be honest with you. It was a boat about this size. And what was I thinking? I know what I went with my college buddy. He said, we got a boat, we're going shark fishing. And it was probably, I don't know, it might be a little bigger, maybe a 22-footer, 24, I don't know. Okay? All I know, we needed a bigger boat. It really did. And so we got out there, and we were throwing, is it chum? This, chum. We're chumming, okay? It's just like on TV. It's like a movie starting. We're chumming out there, and we're throwing out, and we have balloons on the end of this thing where it floats out, okay? You know what I'm talking about? If you don't worry about it, just go with it. They're floating out, and so we got all these things out there, and so we start catching some sharks, and they're not big sharks, and the rule was don't bring it in the boat. Seriously, don't bring it in the boat. So I don't know what we were supposed to do with them. And then about the time we got really going well with this, and everybody's out there, well, there were actually just two of us, and we're out there, and then the storm comes up. You know how it works. I'm in Charleston, okay? And so there's a storm coming. And so I'm just waiting for the movie to begin, okay? Because you know there's going to be a movie with this. So the storm comes, and the waves are really, I haven't been on the ocean, okay? So it looks like sometimes the waves were coming like, I'm not going to make that. You know what I'm talking about? So we were kind of like going in and up and down like this, and the waves were about this high over the boat. And we were just kind of rolling over them. He says, we're going to go in. So we got everything in, and he goes over to crank the motor. Motor doesn't work. No motor working, okay? Joe, you can appreciate this. No motor working. Everything's all right. So I said, okay, well, good. No motor working. We can't row in. Okay, kind of thing. I wasn't prepared to row to begin with. And so he goes to the radio, picks up the radio, and he says, we need help, whatever you do on the radio. 911, I don't know what you do. Guess what doesn't work? Radio. He said, I should have charged that thing. I went, a little late now. So we're out here and we're rolling around. He says, now we're going to drift into the marsh. And I thought, okay. He said, we're just going to drift into the marsh, and we're just going to try to ride it out. Okay, that's the words, and then you're dead. I'm thinking the next words are marsh, drift, dead, So I get in there, and we get in there. He said, this isn't going to work. He said, it's getting really bad. We need help. I'm like, you're the one that owns the boat. You're supposed to know this stuff. So we get in there, and he reaches down like in, I don't know what this is. Hey, that's pretty cool. And he pulls out these rubber waders. Okay, and y'all help me with this. He pulls out the rubber waders, and he says, I'm going to walk in, and I'm going to get help. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do? You're going to have to stay with the boat. And I'm like, he says, you can't get out of the boat because there are oyster beds. Is that correct? And they will cut you all to pieces. And I'm like, die here, die there. I'm thinking. So finally he got in. It was hours later. I'm still out there. There's no food, Of course we didn't think. No water. What happens if something goes wrong? We never think like that, But it went wrong. I made it. I'm still here. I've never been shark fishing again. And I will never go on a boat this size. I will tell you that. But he used to do all kind of shark fishing. And so the boat's not big enough most of the time. And you think about when we're talking of Jonah, we're going to be doing the study of Jonah, by the way, just 4 chapters. And one of the things I got to get you to think about is how to read the Bible in 3D. That's what you're going to have to learn. And we try to teach this in our runners classes. How do you see the Bible in 3D? Because a lot of times you just open it up, and this is an iPad, but let's pretend it's got a cross on it. Everybody? You kind of read the Bible straight story to story to story to chapter. It's actually, if you look at it from the way God sees it, it's kind of like this. It's kind of in a 3D, and you don't actually read it, you look through it. And one of the things that happens in the Jonah story, there's only 4 chapters, and you have to turn it sideways and look through the story, because the story isn't really about a whale. Now, we do that with the kids, Jonah and the whale, and all that. And it wasn't about being swallowed by the fish. There was a much bigger thing going on. And it ends up when you get to the 4th chapter and you get to the last few verses, then you figure out this is what he was doing. This is why God had Jonah in here. And the truth is, it was about you. And this is how you read the Bible. You look through Genesis all the way to Revelation, and you connect all those stories, and it comes down to it really was about you. And so Jonah was going to get something and have something happen in his life that many people never get. And you don't know the difference between the two. A lot of people are looking for the will of God in their life. There's a difference between the will of God and the call of God. And many of you will say, I'm looking for the will of God in my life. What you're actually asking is, I want God to call me to do something. Because we can work the will, and I'll tell you how that works in just a minute. But this was going to be a call. One of the things you have to understand when it comes to God's calling you out, it may not be to your benefit, but it will be the benefit of the people that is going to hear the message. And so that is very difficult for people to swallow or get a hold of. All of that. It's different, and this is what was going to happen with Jonah. Now, let's don't be hard on Jonah. We know that Jonah got called. God said, go do something, and Jonah decides to get in a boat and go as far away from the place he could to get away from the presence of God, which we know we can't run from. Now, let me ask you this real quick. Does ISIS deserve a chance with God? Now, let me ask you this, America. Will you take that message? Will you get on that plane? Will you go over there? Will you walk into there? And you look at those people, you guys need to repent. You going to do that? This is exactly what was about to happen for Jonah. This is exactly what was going to. You hear the things on TV, and you see what ISIS has done, the horrible stuff. The horrible stuff. It was nothing compared to Nineveh. Listen. I read some of the stuff, and I had to put it down. I cannot tell you. I don't want to even tell you what they did to people. And God says, you go. You deliver the message. They need to repent. And see, that was a problem. Because first of all, I don't know if I'm going to die. You have to remember that. I don't know if I'm going to die. Second of all, this is what Jonah was thinking. I don't think they deserve it. That would be very hard for you to go get in an airplane and go and deliver that message. I don't know if you think they deserve it. I don't know what you think would happen to you, but this is what he was facing. This was not an easy thing, and it wasn't just about a fish. God's got a 3D plan going, and he sees things differently. So he's going to deliver the message. In Jonah 1 and 2, I'm going to read it for you. It'll be on the screens. I love this boat. Don't rock the boat, baby. I had to throw that in. I've been wanting to sing it, but I'm not. Okay. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai. Does that sound good? Is that a good southern pronunciation? Saying, arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry out against it, for the wickedness has come up before me. I don't know how he got the word. I don't know if he heard it or it was written in the sand. I don't know how you get the word from God. I usually spend time in the Bible. The Holy Spirit does it. But most of the time I get the word from things. Usually several people will say things to me, and I keep hearing it the same way. And that's when I start paying attention. And I'll tell you about the word when it comes to Marathon. So many of you are going to get a word from people who say, you should be doing this, you should be doing this, you're great at that, you should do that. When it comes to business or whatever, there's going to be a call. And one of the things that happened with Jonah, he was being called out. And many of you, let me tell you this, many of you will not do it. You don't mind working the will of God into your life, and the will of God being where it's going to work in where you work in where you sports, and wherever it is, it's going to work it in. As long as it benefits you, you don't mind. And that's why you came to God, because you feel like it was going to benefit you. And that's why most people stay and hang out at church, because it's a benefit to hang out with God and to worship God and those kind of things. It is a benefit. But when it comes to a call of God, it may not be a benefit whatsoever for you. And it wasn't going to be a benefit for Jonah, and the word wasn't for Jonah, it was for Nineveh, but I have called you to deliver it. What if I die? Not really concerned about that. I'm concerned about the message. And this is why the Bible says that many, are chosen, or many are called, but few are chosen. Because the call is different than just trying to be a good Christian, or be a good this or a good that. And even Jonah said, I'm a good Hebrew. When he got on the boat, he even told them, I'm a good Hebrew. I believe in God. He created the heavens and the earth. I'm a good Hebrew. Listen, Jonah discovered the call of God by doing the will of God. That's how I got it. I got the call of God in my life based upon I'm doing the will of God. When we talk about those things, the read, pray, serve, and give, and those kind of things, that's what we're talking about. Working God's will into our lives because we know God's will. God's will is that none should perish and everyone have salvation. And you deliver the message. By doing the things that you do, delivers the message. Jonah gets on the boat. Jonah gets on the boat and tries his best to get away from God as far as he can. He said he fled to Joppa. He found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went down to it, got on the boat so that he could flee from the presence of the Lord. He got on the boat. I'm going to get in this. The one thing you have to realize with Jonah, he's a good Hebrew. He's a good Christian, just like you. But then God said, I want you to do this. So I have to give you this thought. Am I looking for the will of God or am I looking for the call of God? Because those things are going to be different. And you're going to have to see that he had to do that. And so he got on the boat, and of course the storm started. Started rocking and rocking. I got the idea with the storm. I've seen it, not like this. But he got on the boat, the storm was raging. The sailors were basically saying somebody's causing this. So the sailors got together and talked to their gods, and that didn't end it. So they talked to their God. So he said, there's got to be another God. So they looked down in the hole, and Jonah was asleep. I don't know how you sleep through these things, but Jonah was asleep. The sleeper was down there, and the captain says, get up. Get up here, and you talk to your God, because they're trying to figure out which God it was that was causing this mess. You talk to your God, and perhaps he will consider us. Because we have went around to all of our gods, and he hasn't done anything. It's got to be you. You're the one that's sleeping in the boat. And so they decided to do something. How do we know it's you, Jonah? How do we know? Well, you ever drawn straws? You ever played that game where you draw straws? The last, and the one with the shortest is the guilty, or whatever. Well, they were throwing lots, but let's say they were drawing straws that'll help you. And they went around the boat, and Jonah had the short one. And they looked at me and said, it's got to be you. You're the one that's causing the storm. And Jonah said, you're right. It's me. I'm trying to get away from God because I don't want to go to Nineveh. I don't want to mess with ISIS. I don't care if they go to hell, but God told me to go. And I don't want to go. And the only way we're going to end this thing is you're going to have to throw me overboard. Can you imagine saying that? You're going to have to get rid of me. So they picked Jonah up, threw him into the sea, and the sea ceased from raging. It automatically went, whew, as soon as they got rid of him. Threw him in there. They offered a sacrifice to the Lord and took vows. I don't know what, these were religious sailors. I don't know what they were believing in, but they were religious guys. The Lord prepared a great fish. This is where the whale comes in. Came in, swallowed Jonah in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. So something was going on, and that's where we're going to leave the story. Jonah's in the well. He's hanging out down there, and God isn't finished with him or done with him because God said, you're going to Nineveh, and you're going to make this happen. There's something else that's going on when you three did. What is God trying to tell us? What is God saying to us? Is it the will of God, listen to this, is it the will of God that you're at Marathon today? Yes or no? Yes. Because the will of God is that you go to church every week. That was the will of God, that we get together, we fellowship together. That's why we have church, by the way. One of the reasons why we do this is because it is part of the will of God that we do these things, that we get together. Now, is it the call of God that you're here, or is it the will of God? Because those are two different things. Because the will of God can be worked into your life. It can go to every day. It can go to school with you. It can do all these things. God's wanting to work in your life where you are at the moment you are in present day tense. That's where he wants to work, that kind of thing. So we're trying to work the will of God, and we're looking for the will. The call is going to be different. And here's what I want to caution all of you if you're trying to find the call of God in your life. That's why we have these kids here. Usually God calls early. And I want to tell you something, parents, you're going to have to help me with something. Because here's what happens, and this is the reason why, this is reality. This is what happens all over America. Parents choose the church based upon if the children like it. You tell me this. Rick Warren told me this. If the children like the children's department, then we'll come to that church. If they don't, we'll go somewhere else. We'll pick another. What if you pick Marathon, parents, and something happens in the children's department, somebody didn't speak to them right? And you get in the car, well, they didn't speak to me right. And what do? Well, let's pick another church. What you have done is treated God's stuff differently than you've treated anything else. You have just told your child that God's stuff is not important as the other stuff. Because if your child comes home and says about school, somebody said something to me, well, you don't say, well, let's just pick another one. Do we? My child's quit 10 times this year. You understand? What if they get, what you're doing, you're setting up, well, when they have a job, you don't quit that job till you get another one. You don't do that with God. This is what I'm saying. What's happening here? What happens when they get married? Well, if you don't like it, pick another wife. You don't do that with other things. And Christians, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to caution you to be very careful. When you start doing those things, it messes up the call of God, because you're saying if it's trouble or if it's tough, we need to move on and we need to quit. You can't answer the call of God, because I'm going to tell you it's going to be trouble and it's going to be tough. And this is what was happening with Jonah. And when I hear parents saying, we're going to pick or we're going to choose, listen, it happens every weekend. And some of you may be here because you decided to pick something new. You're never going to grow up doing that kind of thing. You're going to teach your children, if church is tough, you can leave, but don't leave your job, don't leave the school, don't leave your marriage. Why is God different? Why is it different? And this is where Jonah is. When the call of God came, this isn't for your benefit. This isn't for your benefit. This is the benefit of Nineveh. The call of God, listen to this, compared to the will of God, you will have to change your life. If you answer God's call, it will be different than what you think. And you can't pick and choose them. Just because it gets tough, do I leave? You don't do other things that way. And the call of God is different. Let me tell you this. When God called me to start Marathon, I want you to know something. This isn't my idea. This isn't what I wanted to do. This was not my dream. My dream is I was going to be in housing. I was going to be in real estate. I was going to flip houses. My brother and my dad, we had already set it up. We were already working with the banks. We were ready to go. I'm never going to make the money I would have made doing houses. I'm never going to retire a millionaire. I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do that. This was not my idea. This was his. And he said, you're the one. And the reason I stay at Marathon, I want you to listen to this, the reason I'm here is because of the call of God in my life. That's why I'm here. And I want y'all to understand, and he's never told me to do anything else. And I will not move until I know he's told me to do something else. You see how that works? You see, are you here because of a call, or are you here because of a will? Because I've got people been here 18 years. They've seen it, come and go, and highs and lows, and happy, sads, and all that. But they said, I am called. If you don't stick with something, you'll never grow up. When it gets bad is when you need to hang on. That's when God's about to do something. This is what happened to Jonah. It was going to get bad. But you know what happened with God? He didn't turn him loose. And this is what I was afraid of. I want y'all to know this real quick. I was afraid God would not turn me loose. We were already having trouble sleeping. My wife and I could not sleep. Nothing was going right. We could get no peace. And finally she says, let's sell the house. Let's do what God said so we can at least sleep. And you know what? Yeah. Have I been blessed? Absolutely. Have I got things that I never thought of? Yeah, sure. I have. But it wouldn't have mattered. Do you understand? It wouldn't have mattered. God called me to be here for you. And that's why we're here. And so just because it gets tough doesn't mean you choose something else. You have to teach your children those principles to stick with it. And you hear that guy? I want you to meet somebody. You have no idea. I call him the Jonah in Marathon. And many of you will understand that in just a minute. But I want you to hear Chris Birch. Make welcome Chris Birch.
Hey.
You want to sit down?
Sit in the boat?
All right, let's sit down.
No.
Let me say something first. All right, Chris is working with our youth and children. I've known him a long time. But you don't know what I know, and you're going to find out in just a minute. But one of the things I like about him is he never gave up. He never gave up. So I need you to hear this. And so I want you to tell them where you've come from and all the things that you're 24. All right, see if you could have handled this. Listen to this.
All right, so how I got here, I started in 7th grade. Heard about this church called Marathon. So that was cool. I heard about it, no biggie. This really pretty girl then came up to me and said, hey, do you want to go to church with me? And then I was like, yes, I want to go to this place called
That's
Marathon.
how we do it,
That's how we do it.
Okay.
She snagged me. That was good. Didn't work out, whatever. I didn't care. But that's how I got here. Pretty girl invited me. So from 7th grade to my freshman year, I was attending here, serving here, going up, so quite a while. 7th grade,
Yes.
bad at math, youth ministry, 8 something, who knows? I don't know. We were
I don't
here.
know. You asking
I
me
don't
about
know.
I'm only 40 years
We're
old.
in a
I don't
boat
know where I
on
am.
a stage with people in chairs. Who knows? We're just here. So from that time, I was in church. Before I got to church, there were a few things that happened before I found my way here to Marathon. I know growing up, my dad left like 2 times growing up before he even got into church. He left one night, he just ran off, went to North Carolina. My mother took him back in, she forgave him, he came back in. He did again later on, a few more years, he left. My mom forgave him, came back in. That was a weird part in my life, but I had my grandma, she was there, and she just like was with the family praying over us. He stayed with my mother throughout. My grandma's actually right here, so I'm just gonna shout out to her. She's the old one with white hair.
Older, remember older.
Older.
Yeah, older. Okay.
Super old. So that was coming up, and then in 6th grade, this crazy thing happened. So my dad's left to come back, he left to come back. In 6th grade, our house, we had gas heating and electricity. So we had a hole in the pipe, and so our house filled up with gas. And I was in band practice playing the trombone. I remember it. And I got a call from my aunt who never comes and gets us, like never. And she was wearing a SpongeBob nightgown. So like everything in my head, I was like, something's not right here. She's like, come home, we're coming to my place. We never go to her place. So I'm like, what? She's like, we're gonna go pick up your sister too. And like everything, like in 6th grade, I'm still like, well, Curious George here. What's going on? Why are you coming to pick me up? And she's like, I gotta tell you something, your house burnt down. And I was like, what? Because it was gas, it filled up, and when it turned on, it made a spark and blew the house up, like literally exploded. My dad was in it. He said he woke up from a nap and he looked around, he heard a bang, and it shot him into the wall. He looked up, and there's fire shooting out of the vents because it just ignited. He went into my sister's room, tried to bust out the window. He passed out from the smoke. My great-grandpa, this man's a stick, okay? Like my great-grandpa, any great-grandparents in here? Very few. If you are, you're very old. You know that. Older.
You still get the older. You got to do the older.
Older.
Yeah. I'm trying to teach him how to talk.
Great-grandpa busts out the window, drags my dad out of the burning house. Crazy. He was very stick, we'll say, in his years. So that was 6th grade. 7th grade started coming to Marathon. So before I even got here, there was like a few things that already happened. We rebuilt the house, moved over, it got bigger. So we got a bonus room out of it upstairs from the house blowing up. So I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Getting later on in life, now it's 10th grade. So I've been here for 3 years. We make jokes now. I'm a pretty funny person. You can ask your students if you have them. I'm pretty funny. So in 6th grade going up to 10th grade, I made a lot of like, your house exploded. Like, it never happens. It's a weird thing that happens. So I tell a bunch of kids, I'm bowling one day. I get a phone call from a friend says, hey, your house is on fire. And I'm like, sure it is. Huh? The mother grabs it. And she's like, for real, your house is on fire. It was an outlet we never even used. It was underneath a Chester cabinet. Never even used the outlet. And it V'd up electrical fire, burned my parents' room, got the bonus room, my favorite part, and smoke damaged the whole house. The lady, the bowling alley, wouldn't let me leave because I had her bowling shoes on. And I just had to run out there and like go. But I remember on the phone, I was just like in 10th grade, super sarcastic, and she was like, "Your house is on fire." And I was like, "What do you want me to do?" Like,
I'm bowling.
I'm not a fireman, and I'm
I love
bowling.
it.
I gotta finish this lane.
Oh.
So I get there, and my house is on fire. Like seeing it this time. I didn't get to see the first one because as soon as I got there, it was gone. The fireman said it went so fast because it was gas. It literally exploded. House was gone. I remember walking up, seeing it, my room completely destroyed, and I cried. That was one of the first times like I just melted down. I was like, my house is gone. All I have are my clothes, my shirt. That was it. And so 10th grade, I'm seeing it again. I'm like, oh my goodness, my mom's breaking down. I was like, at least it's still here. Like, it's not that bad. It's just my parents' room, my attic, and smoke damage. Like, isn't that a crazy thing when you can go, it's not that bad. It could be worse. So I never, like, really questioned God. Like, all the time it's happening, I'm just like, I would really like a warning. Like, if you just tell me, hey, your house is going to burn down when you get home, but everyone's going to be okay. And I'd be like, thank you for letting me know. It's weird that I know that. But I never got these warnings. So it was just like, okay, I'm a little upset that you didn't let me know, but I'm okay. I understand what you're doing. I always had this crazy thing. I had faith going in. Keep going, 10th grade. I'm going to college now. This is my freshman year in college. My parents, my mom just got diagnosed with cancer. That was a hard time. My parents started fighting more. I don't know if it was cancer or whatnot. They were just starting to fight more. I was gone to camp, working at a camp. My sister was at home with them. She felt it pretty rough because they're fighting the whole time. Get home, parents are still fighting. Mother has cancer. They separate, so they stop paying for the house and everything. This was the second time I just melted down. It was so hard. I got a call from a friend, and like, hey, your house is foreclosing? It's in the newspaper. And I had no idea. So that's how I heard about my house being foreclosed. I hope none of you ever go through that. And if you'd find it in the newspaper, it's pretty rough. Like, see your house, 1315 Old Pilton Road, like in the newspaper, your house is being foreclosed. Someone called me and let me know that. I was just like, what? And I remember I was with a friend, I just started crying. That was the second time I just broke down. I was like, what in the world? And he's like, man, it's going to be okay. I got no idea what's happening, but it's going to be okay. I felt that way. I was just like, all right, for some reason this is happening. Next crazy thing. The cool thing, the banks, I know a lot of people say this, they're nice, but if your house does foreclose, they still write you a check. So we still got a check from it. They wrote my mother and father a check, and the day they're going to get it. So we go to the house, the bank will be there, they foreclose your house, they'll give you a check. On the day of, there was a mysterious fire. Third one.
This is 3, right?
3.
Okay.
We're counting.
We're in the third, but okay.
Third house fire. And this one was mysterious. It was very odd. The day of, gonna get your check, there's a fire. A lot of people saw my father leaving the house before the fire started. And there was a report, but they closed it. They're not sure what happened. But a lot of people suspect my father of doing it, but the case was closed. I'm not sure what happened. It just was very odd. He never admitted to it or anything. It was just a very weird thing. And my dad left, and then the house caught on fire for the third time. And, of course, we didn't get any money from the bank because the house was destroyed. So that was a crazy moment. And the craziest thing, like, out of all this is just I kept trusting God. Like, I understand, like, how important God is. What is happening? I know for some reason, whatever it's happening for, I can talk to someone about cancer. I can talk about someone about divorce. If I need to, 3 house fires, I can talk about that. Whatever it is, like I have this ability just to talk to someone now. Like you got your will and your call, and just keep doing it. And somehow I was brought back here, and I'm the youth pastor at Marathon Church. Like it's just crazy how that happens.
I wanted you to hear him so you know who's working with your youth. I wish that this was the end of this story, but I asked him to share with you. You think, well, that's a lot to go through. You're 24. You got 3 house fires. You got a cancer. You got divorce and all that. And you think, well, that should do it, right? Well, I want him to, if you will, tell us the rest of the story.
The next part, it's really hard. Like, it's a weird thing just to talk in front of people. It took me a little while to get over it. Like, I got to talk about this. It's a good thing. Like, I can now have more conversations about what's going to happen. Before this one, my mother got off breast cancer, so she's good. And then she got another type of cancer. But she's doing good now. Mom's good. Mom got over that.
All right.
That's awesome. Next thing that happened, sitting freshman year, about to go on spring break. My phone died. I got a Facebook message from my friend Aaron. He's like, hey, have you seen the news? I was like, no. He's like, your dad's been arrested. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. Started getting a bunch of Facebook messages popping up. He was arrested for murder. So with that going into, I hated hearing about it because of the newspaper, like a friend calling. Here's Facebook blowing up all people. Can I pray for you? I was like, whoa, leave me alone. And then going to the news, WYFF, Fox, there's your dad, the picture. And the crazy thing is I go by Chris Birch. And that's, my dad's name's Billy Birch. He's got the last name. So just seeing that up there, like, there's my name. There's my last name. So it took me long to get over. It's like, just because my dad made a terrible mistake, I'm not the same person. I'm a totally different person. Thank you. So that took me a while to get over. Now it's like, I can go talk about this. I can go talk to people. Hey, if your dad's been arrested, or if you got any arrests in your thing, and now I have something else to talk about. So one night, like, he never drank. Growing up, he never drank. I think the separation, the divorce that led up, it got to him, and he started drinking a lot more. And one night, he got really drunk, got thrown out of the bar, and he went and murdered someone. And now he spends his life in jail. He's away forever now, in jail. And so going with that, it's like, again, God, if you would have let me know, again, I would be totally down for it. If you don't, I understand. I understand what's going on. One of my biggest things, it still is, I have amazing faith. And I try to share that with people. I try to push it. Like, you can never tell, well, I'm 24 years old. No, I don't think any of you would have guessed. That's my life so far at 24. It's just, I have great faith. I want to share that. I want your students to know that. I want to push that with you. Like, God's will is crazy for us as human beings. We're going to be like, if he would even told me that, I'd probably said no. So him just going and doing it, then it's like, now I've learned all these different things from it. I can talk about almost anything with any student. And I do. Sometimes on Wednesday nights, right before I speak, they'll be like, hey, can we talk real quick? And they tell me everything. It's like, okay, man, it's going to be okay. One, God loves you. And life is hard, but you're going to get through it. That's just one of the biggest things.
This is why he's here. Okay, he never quit. He never gave up. God called him to do this, to love kids and to love your kids. And this is why he's here. And we're going to help him. He came through our runners program. You're actually going through it still some more with that.
Yeah, I failed the first one.
Yeah, he failed the first one, so he had little issues going on there. But I don't know how many 24-year-olds. I don't know if you would have done this. I don't know if you would be here. You know what I'm saying? You know, after enough is enough, and you think, well, God's got to be mad at me. That's not how he thought. He thought God was loving him and teaching him, and that's exactly why you're here. And so what I want to do is I want to pray for Chris. I want us to be the family for him, okay? I want to help him grow up. I want to help him move the kingdom. He loves your kids. He doesn't know everything, okay? That's what I like about him. But he's learning everything he can, and he's going to move the kingdom. So would y'all stand with me? I want to have a prayer with Chris. I love you, man.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. My daughter loves you too, by the way. Just throwing that out. All right, let me pray for you. Father, we thank you again for Chris. We hear his story. We hear all the things that he's gone through. And for most of us, we'd already given up, but he has not. I pray, Father, that marathon, that we can help him grow and move the kingdom with him and be a family to him in every way possible. I pray you bring kids in his life. I pray you bring the youth and the children, all the things that need to happen with him. I pray, Father, you'll bring the people who are hurting that Chris can help. Father, again, I thank you for this day. I thank you for Chris and what he's about to do at Marathon and this wonderful ride that you've got him on. Father, again, he's trusting you, he's loving you, and we're doing the same. Thank you for what's about to happen. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.